Welcome to the Core podcast. This one's a little bit special because it's just hosted by me. This collection of fantastic podcasts comes from a load of amazing, influential women in tech. I'm really excited to share this with you throughout October. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Kate. This is our second one of talking to inspiring women within the cybersecurity industry. And actually, you just said you've been nominated for an award, so that's exciting. Could you quickly introduce yourself, a little bit about you, your career, how you've ended up here in cybersecurity? Because for me and for other women that I've been interviewing, it's not probably was on the top of our list as a child. So would you give us a bit of back history into you?
Yeah. Sure. So my name's Kate Baker. I'm the Channel Manager for Immersive Labs. In terms of career and how I ended up in cyber, I think I've had a checkered background in many respects. So I started off doing English literature at university, ended up going into HR, but worked for a software company. Okay. And I guess the IT industry held some appeal. And eventually sort of ended up going down that route, sort of first off in sort of business development, ended up then into cybersecurity with FireEye initially. And the interest has probably just evolved, and I've just ended up seeing myself much more in that relationship channel side of the business rather than direct sales, I think.
And you've been an interior designer as well in between that, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So through just a personal experience or one of those life-changing moments where I lost a friend suddenly, I was in an HR role and I just was like, this isn't what I wanted to do, and decided to do something completely different, and always had an interest in interior design. So I went back to university and did an interior design course and ended up having my own business for a while as well. So yeah, definitely English literature, interior design, and then cybersecurity.
I think it's interesting though, because we've all kind of, from everyone I've spoken to so far, we've all got there in a weird, different way, but we've all ended up and we've all found something exciting about cybersecurity from a different angle. I like it because for me, from marketing, I think it's quite James Bondy. Yeah. And there's cool angles in it and things like that. Where is it that element that you like? Is it the actual industry, or is it the people, or what is it about that's kept you here?
I think it's a multitude of things, actually. And I think cybersecurity, if you think about it, not giving away my age or anything, but I think cybersecurity is something that has evolved actually in the last 20 odd years or so. Yeah. So perhaps when I came out of university, there was an element of security, but it wasn't so profound or as involved as it is now. I think there's two things. The technology, I think the whole side of cybersecurity is exciting, it's new, it's constantly changing. Yeah. It's incredibly difficult to keep up with it. And I think, like you said, within the marketing, there are so many exciting things that you can do with it because it is kind of diverse and new. It's just something that's...
And you were touching about that at uni. I don't know how, we went at different times, but I don't remember that being a thing. I don't remember coming into uni and being careful about my logins or where my email address, or not using the same password, the same. Just so from a hygiene perspective of being at using laptops and being in different labs and things, that was never discussed as part of my starting at uni. That's probably changed now. I don't remember it being a career. I did business studies and there was no element of my business study degree about cybersecurity. Yeah. Was that the same for you? I mean, you've got sons that I know are at the uni or starting uni. Are you seeing a difference between when he went and you, or do you still think it's not spoke about enough?
Oh, no, completely different. So when I did my dissertation, I was kind of a little bit ahead of my time in that I had an electric typewriter.
Love that.
So completely different. Whereas now my son is at Bournemouth, my eldest one, and doing software engineering, but he was given a laptop as soon as he started secondary school. Majority of his work was done on a laptop. So right from a very early age, that part of their curriculum was passwords, security. There was obviously as well products on there as well, so they couldn't search certain sites and all things. So it was right from the start.
So do you think he has a better understanding and has an understanding of what you do as a career?
Yeah, completely. So if I talk to my, and again, it's a generation thing. If I talk to my parents, if I try and explain to my parents around what I do and my role at the moment, I remember one time trying to explain to my mum that imagine if I was, I worked for Heinz and I produce baked beans. I don't actually sell the baked beans to you, but I get Waitrose to sell the baked beans. And my mum was like, so you work for Heinz, you sell baked beans. And it was kind of, it is, whereas completely, my son is completely aware of it. And even my little one, I've got a younger one as well, and he's the same, you know, he understands it. Everything he does as well, he knows automatically. If he's trying to, you know, so much is at their fingertips now, you know. For him, even this morning, it was a case of he didn't understand a particular word and he just picked my phone up and Googled it. Yeah, you know, there's it opens up such.
Does he know your PIN? Because my daughter came up to my phone and was like, I need your PIN yesterday.
Yes.
See, I'm not there yet because she's only 5 and I feel like she'll go on a shopping spree with my phone. But they are so more switched on. Interestingly, she's my daughter's only 5 and her outdoor curriculum learning is stuff to do on a tablet or on a phone. So she has maths where she's got to be able to see the numbers and patterns, and that's a game as an app. That was part of her curriculum. There's another game that's actual computer games, which reminds me of Lemmings, that are done for her to understand equations and weight and if you need, you know, and scales and stuff like that. So she's 5 and a lot of her stuff that she's doing is through a laptop and things like that. So I think the use of computers is definitely becoming more, it's just becoming the norm. And I think because of that, the interest of cybersecurity or understanding of that is going to become more and more. And we're just watching some of the clips of movies today, Clem, things that were predicted 10, 15 years ago are really becoming a reality now. Like your fridge can talk to your phone, to your self-driving cars, like, you know, Chris joked earlier about Knight Rider. Well, actually, it's not that far away, is it really? So I think it will become a more interesting topic. How do you think we could empower women to be interested in cybersecurity? Because it wasn't on my list. And do you think where are the ways that we could make it more of an interesting and maybe not so? We've had this discussion. It's not so male dominated anymore, but probably is seen more of a male industry. What do you think? Do you think that's from school? Do you think that's from education? Do you think that's from having, you know?
I think it's twofold. Yes, I think it's from an education perspective. You know, it's like we as a country probably fail with language skills. And we don't teach it from an early age, whereas so many other European countries, it's kind of started at a really young age. And I think it's the same thing. I mean, yes, they're all going to have access to technology far more than we probably did. But I do think it needs to start from schools. And I think we need to get away from this idea as well. And it is going that way because it's been proven as well that girls are doing better in the more sort of what used to be more male-dominated subjects. But I think it's got to be an open playing field. You know, it is not when it's a discussion at GCSE or whatever or A-levels. It's this is the whole portfolio. Which ones do you feel you're able to do? I think it's a wider discussion around education, though, as well, is because we've also as well, through I guess, progression or whatever, we're understanding as well that not everybody learns the same way. No. And it's an understanding of, you know, you're talking about dyslexia and all things like that much more. And I think we used to in the past see it as a failing, but actually what is becoming more and more apparent is that there are so many skill sets that they have that other people don't have. Yeah. And it's the same again. I think we need to be able to give children that time to understand where their skill set is. And if male or female actually prove themselves in certain skill, drive them into, well, why don't you do computer science? Or why don't, you know, something like that. I think we need to be far more in tune with our kids to understand and drive them into the skills that and jobs that would suit them.
100%. Do you feel the industry is changing and more appealing for women now?
Yeah, I think it is. I think probably some of it is a skills shortage, so that there are far more opportunities open to women. Yeah. But I think also as well, I think more women are having the confidence to apply for jobs and are going for them.
Interesting you say that. So I've got a statistic here that 22% of women are afraid to try something new and fail compared to 13% of men. And
Wow.
interestingly, when going for a new job, statistically, women are only likely to apply for a job if they meet 100% of the criteria, where men would be happy to hit 60% and go for a job. So it's still showing that as women,
wow. Okay.
we aren't so prepared to take a risk or to try something new or out of our comfort zone. So do you feel, I mean, is that you? I mean, I know it's me, but that might not be you at all. And it feels like you've been more adventurous with your careers. If you've dropped and changed, where I haven't, I've always stuck to what I've known. Do you think that's still true? I mean, my daughter, I think, would be more open to changing and swinging and doing her own thing because of her parents in her career. I grew up from a background where my parents stayed in the same place. My dad's still in the same company. Get your pension, don't move on, put your head down, work hard. So again, I think it's generational things. But do you think women do play it safe? Do you think you jumped the career as quickly as you could have, or do you think things held you back?
Yeah, and yes, I think women generally are still more reserved and tend to be a little bit more cautious. But again, this is probably a slightly different subject, but I think that's because women are still trying to juggle many things. So when they're going for a job, they're looking at lots of other factors.
Yeah.
That's not always the case, you know, relationships and things like that have changed and evolved so much as well. But I think, again, that probably that's home. You know, and the, I guess the representations that kids have at home as to, you know, from my two boys, they're always going to have seen me working. So that's the role model that they have of a female.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your daughter will be the same. She sees you and has seen you always working.
Yeah.
I think it's just, again, it's just confidence building. We've got to have the courage and the confidence to go for things. And you know what? You know, if you don't ever make mistakes, you can never learn and you can never grow. I mean, trust me, I've made a number of mistakes in my life, but actually that makes you a stronger person for it. And I think we've all got to not be afraid to make a mistake and go for things.
And also, we were talking about this because going on about us both being working mums, and then that's completely everyone's choice of what they decided we needed that in our lives. And I 100% feel I'm a better mum for working. But I do think, this is not fair to say, but I do think women do juggle more hats. And I feel like when you are building your own family, and we can discuss because we do have children, you are not only, you've got your job, but you're kind of the CEO of your house. I don't know why naturally that happens. I don't know if this happens in your house too, but it seems to be like the life admin, the kids going to school, who's organising the nativity, clothes, all those, you know, you're talking about vaccine bookings, all that sort of like the dentist appointment, has her £1.50 gone in her bag for X, Y and Z. I don't know if it's my own doing, but in my own house, maybe I'm a bit of a control freak. That still falls a lot on my shoulders. How is that the same with you? Have you found a better balance? Because I still trying to work that out in my life.
I think as well, because of where we are in terms of generation, we both have come from mums who didn't work.
Yeah.
So for us, we are trying to prove to everyone and maybe to ourselves to a certain extent that we can make it work. And so I think we still have that guilt complex.
Yes.
So you talked about a control freak. I definitely know I have that side of me. I am a control freak. But I suppose I feel like if I am controlling it, then I know it's kind of, which sounds awful, but I know it's done.
Yep.
So I think we are our own worst enemies sometimes.
Because we don't ask for help.
Yes. Completely.
I feel like we need to. And if actually I went to my husband, or if you could pack the lunches this week and put the £1.50 in the thing, he'd be like, okay. I feel like there's some side of me which battles to and from of like, well, if I'm working all day, then the rest of the stuff I've got to do really well. Like if she's taking in her art competition thing, that's going to be the best art competition thing because I haven't been at home or I've been away for 2 days.
That's the guilt complex though, isn't it? Because you want to still be able to be being a good mum as well.
But what defines a good mum? And I think we put it on ourselves, and I really hope by my daughter's generation, if she does or doesn't decide to have children or whatever that looks like, that we as women have got to like build each other up and be like, no, that's okay to work, and it's healthy for you if you're working away for 2 days because at the weekend you're 100% in. Like I think we carry a lot of guilt, but I think maybe because as women we don't talk about it and be like, well, I feel that too. And And we can be a little bit competitive.
I think we're
in
competitive.
The playground.
Yeah. I think we are competitive. There's definitely a competitive streak within me as well. I think we as women as well can tend to be a little bit control freaks. But we're trying to prove something, I think, all the time. And, I've had conversations with my youngest one, I have missed out on stuff. And I think, again, it's that honesty and that openness. It's a frank conversation. It's, what, I can't come to this, but because I'm working, we can do this.
Yeah.
It's a case of, again, an explanation sometimes or a conversation. And generally, I think kids are aware and they take it on board. And I think a big percentage of it is down to us, and we need to be supporting. I don't think it's just us as women, but we need to be supporting that family network as a whole. And for the lots of men who want to take more of a role in things as well, we've got to give them those opportunities. And for us, we sometimes need to let go and actually ask for help.
Yeah,
and accept it.
Exactly. Raise that, trying to not have the guilt factor, like level the playing field, support each other up. I think there's loads and loads to do of it. But interesting, you said that about men, and my brother-in-law's actually split the maternity-paternity leave off. So she's done the first 12 weeks and he's doing the next 12 weeks, which is not everyone does that, but that's what they want to do as a couple, and I think that's incredible, but it works for them. So actually leveling that. But I was wondering as well if you found this with language of being in a female, and I think you've quite fairly said in our industry it's actually not too bad, and I think it's more of my friends maybe in different industries, but things that have been mentioned like, who's looking after the kids today, or who's picking them up. Have you ever had that in assumptions that it should be you? I've not had it too bad. It's been like friends, but it's just been some like little things that have ever been dropped in that there's been an assumption that you should be the one. That's good then.
I don't think I have, but I think that's down to actually probably the companies that I've worked for to some extent, and also the people who I've reported into. Immersive Labs is very, very much that equality sort of side. And that's a very, very key point of their kind of ethos, if you like. And then prior to that, I worked for a company called Agari, and I had an incredible mentor, an incredible boss, a lady called Tracy Palace. And, it was never a question. It was, she was incredibly influential in supporting me and driving me to do the things that I wanted to do. And therefore, it was never really a discussion. It was an understanding around the fact that I had children, but in the same way, it was an understanding of people who have a commitment to pets, to dogs, or I don't mean to undermine children, do you know what I mean? But it's the same kind of thing. Everybody has responsibilities.
But it could be elderly parents that you
exactly.
help, or it could be any other. Yeah, we've all got different, it doesn't even have to be children. It could be anyone that's got those. And I think COVID has supported that with flexible.
I agree, yeah.
But I think that's fantastic. And it's fantastic that you've worked with such great companies in what is normally seen as a male-dominated industry. Yeah. I think that's also why we should wave the flag for joining cybersecurity, because
definitely
it is very forefront in the way that the tech's going, but I do think in a lot of the businesses it was also in the way that we work and who we work with, and you have mentioned mentors, and that's why I think it's really important for us to bring the next generation in, because having more women and more people that we can look up to is really, really important. We've talked about why we've loved the industry, about being a woman in it, and that we really want to get more women involved in cybersecurity. In your opinion, what do you think is the biggest challenges within cybersecurity, and how do you think the landscape is going to change over time?
I think the hardest thing is keeping up with it.
Yeah.
I think you've got hackers and all the rest of it are evolving and becoming cleverer, as time goes on. And so we've just got to keep up with them. And I think that's the hardest thing. It's an industry as well that has changed so much. When I first started out, you pretty much knew all the vendors that were in cybersecurity at the time, and for example, yourselves as partners, as resellers, you're now inundated with possibilities of vendors that you can take on board. Yep. It's saturated market now. So I think that's going to be the hardest thing, is differentiating yourself, what's something new, and making yourself heard basically above all the other noise. I think that's the hardest thing now. Yeah,
that makes complete sense. And I think also being a reseller, I mean, we all get approached by different ones, and it's really lifting under the lid and making sure that technology, or it really stacks up to what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's great with Immersive Labs, because how many labs are there now?
So there's over 1,500 labs now.
Yeah, and you're constantly releasing new ones depending.
Yeah.
Like when Log 4 happened, you had a lab. Like you're so responsive to the market that no training, no book, no thing that you can watch online could be quick enough. So I think that's another great piece about it, is that we can stay up the times with your technology.
But I think that's one of the main reasons why James Hadley kind of developed Immersive Labs, was because it was an area that was changing so quickly that to produce something, to deliver 3-4 months later would be out of date. I think we sort of set out, I think it's between 5 and 6 new labs on almost a weekly basis or monthly basis. So it's got to be, and even the labs that are there need to be constantly updated, need to be refreshed. Mm-hmm. And it's the only way I think you can do it, to keep on top of that cyber security and ensure that you're resilient.
Perfect. I could talk about this subject all day and about women and empowering us and getting us into cybersecurity, but I don't want to take up all your time. So just to wrap up, what 5 tips for anyone inspiring to be in cybersecurity, whether that's male or female, would you give? And would you give anything different if you are women looking to get into it?
For I think women is still, like we kind of discussed, it's go for it. Don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You might get some rejections. You might make mistakes, but you learn through everything that you kind of take on board. So that would be, I think, one side of it. And I think go out there. There are so many trade shows as well, so many events. Go and have a look. Go and see. And I think the big part as well, and that's something that has been very sort of relevant for me, is look at companies as well. Cybersecurity, I think in general, is more advanced, and the way that they do things, their approach to women or whatever within workforce is more advanced. Yeah. So go and have a look, see what the companies are offering, what their ethos is, what their kind of,
That's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, do some research. And don't be afraid either, if a company's not right for you, just because they've offered you something, don't be afraid to say no if you don't feel it's right for you.
I found that really, because I remember being taught this from another mentor of mine, of saying that an interview process is actually a two-way thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, especially when I left uni, I was like, oh my God, like me. And I remember this one interview coming across, and there was something that didn't read right on the day, on the interview, and my gut was like, this place isn't right, and I didn't take it. And actually a friend did. We were both up against each other, and she didn't have a very good experience. She ended up leaving 6 months. But there was something in my gut that told me, like, I don't think you're going to be happy here. It's not going to lie with you quite right. And even though it was a very big name brand, my dad really wanted me to take it, there was something about it that didn't sit quite right. And it's interesting you were saying about the gut and the interview, and you don't necessarily have to say yes. I think, I don't know about everyone, but I definitely went into the interview like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to get a job. Where actually we need to be going in and being like, oh, is this right for me? Is the office where I want to be? Are the people seeming right? And I think we get a bit, tunnel visioned and just wanting to impress, but we don't actually look around the environment and see if it's for us. Yeah,
I agree. And I think maybe that's something as well, when you talked about the stats with women, it's almost, oh my gosh, I've been given an opportunity, I've got to take it. So lucky. And exactly. And I think we've got, that's again, confidence building. You have as much to offer that company as they do you. Yeah. It is exactly as you say, it's a two-way street. Yeah. And, you don't owe them to take the job. It's got to be right for everybody. And if it's not right for you, you won't deliver either. Yeah, if you're not happy, you're not going to do a great job, and you won't be fit in the culture of that. There's a lot you need to question. Yeah. Perfect. So I think, wrapping overall, really, women, we just need to get a bit more confident. We do. We need to get a bit more confident, and hopefully you'll join me and Kate on our cybersecurity journey. Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much.